Ladies and gentlemen, we have round number one about to come up here for Duels of Runeterra number 16. And we got Deach, who just won Fight Night this past week in round one here, versus Miso Fat. it's like, he's like trolling. Like every time somebody says the name, they're calling them. Anyways, we got round one here. Deach versus Miso Fat. Duels of Runeterra, number 16, casting with Boulevard. As always, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works. If you're new to the channel, this is where you can find all the tournament content, all of the Legends of Runeterra competitive content here, right on the channel, as well as much, much more. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into the gameplay. Don't forget to like the video if you like this match. Round one, Duels of Runeterra number 16. The side deck, we have 2 Elixir of Iron, 2 House Spider, 3 Kindly Tavern Keeper, 2 Might, 3 Reckless Trifarian, 2 Nox Crya Arena, and we're actually about to get into the game too, so I'm going to go ahead and head on over.
Sounds
and
good.
1 Captain Farron. I don't know, that lineup in the side deck just feels like alternate ways to build mid-range Frostbite. It's not really any crazy tech outside of the Nox Crya Arena.
It's strange because one thing that I'm learning from all this sideboard discussion is how many players are unfamiliar with a sideboard format who have never played a physical card game and dealt with a side deck before. So that's interesting. And another part of it is just this isn't a game that was designed to have side decks. A lot of players haven't side decked before. They don't really understand the concept. There are a lot of sort of deeper tournament knowledge that you need to have to build sort of a fleshed out side deck. So for a lot of players, it is going to feel a little bit more transformative. Just these are the cards that I didn't put in my deck that sometimes get added in. So I'll just have those in my side deck, swap them in and out for the matchups. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that today because a lot of these players haven't actually played physical card games before.
Yeah, and it's funny because in the chat last night for Fight Night as well, I was talking about potentially playing these games face-to-face because obviously we have the whole COVID thing on top of, this being a digital card game. And yeah, it's interesting playing in person versus playing digitally like this. I do miss it. I miss the whole, OCD shuffling the cards in your hand 1,000 times while you're staring down your opponent. You're really intimidating them shuffling those cards, So
yeah, I'm thinking back to the reputation that I garnered for myself while I was playing physical card games, and it's pretty on par with what I have here.
Which is referring to Force of Will, I should say. I almost said Deach's name for some reason.
Yeah, Force of Will and Yu-Gi-Oh! I garnered this reputation of I would not talk to my opponent at all. It would be a lot of deadpan stares, and I became known as a very intimidating player. And then, if we got to a point where I started talking and started to get really buddy-buddy with you, that was the switch where the game was over. And you couldn't tell if that meant the game was over for me or against me. But if I started joking around with you, the game was 100% locked up. We were in limbo.
Because in your head, you're just like, I don't really need to think as much anymore because this game's already over. So I'm just going to chill, relax, make some friends.
Yeah, so there was nothing better than, sitting there dead staring my opponent the entire match. And then they start to joke around with me and I start to joke back and they're like, oh, no.
So it's interesting. So on the side of Deach, we do have this TDL deck that Yang's...
You mean TLC?
Sorry, wow. I don't know why I always say TDL when I say that. TLC.
Where did you get the D from?
I don't know, man. Tender...
Darkness.
Tender Loving Care. Tender Loving Care is the name of the deck. And Yang Zera is the one who usually gets
popularized. That still be TLC?
Yeah, it's TLC. No, I know. I don't know where I get the D from, man. I like the letter.
I thought TLC was Trundle Ladros combo.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Trust me, I'm wrong.
Okay.
All right, I'm usually wrong.
I thought that was actually the name. I'm like, who came up with Tender Loving? What kind of white nonsense?
Wait, don't tell me you've never heard. That's like usually TLC.
Okay, so
what?
I mean, when you say TLC, I think tables, ladders, and chickens.
Wow, we got all sorts of acronyms. Jesus Christ. We are all over the place. All right. Woo! This is going to be a long day.
We're not on the same page just yet, but we'll get there. Don't worry.
So, anyways, this TLC deck, we have Trundle, Ladros combo, and 3 Ladros here. Pretty standard build. 2 Ruination, 2 Vengeance, 2 Revitalizing Roar. Ladros is a hell of a card, man, and it's still seeing a ton of play, and I think more so since the new cards have come out. I've seen a lot on ladder already.
So my theory for the one deck format is that we are a card game that doesn't have good aggro side deck tools. There's nothing that says like players can't gain life or anything like that. The only thing you can really do is either try to become more aggressive or try to out mid-range your opponent, which means that aggro is not very good because there are a lot of anti-aggro side deck tools. So if there's no aggro in the format, the best deck is the absolutely greediest control deck you can conceive, which is probably going to involve 3 Commander Ladros.
And I do apologize for anybody who just did the decks command in chat. I'm actually updating them right now with the decks for today because they do have these side decks this time around. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it back up in chat for everybody. We should be good now. There we go.
All right, perfect. But given this match at hand, I mean, it's working out in the board state that is for Fat so far, but this is turn 6. This is the Ruination turn, and Fat, not wanting to take the open attack, deciding that it wasn't quite enough damage, is just going to walk himself right into that one. And it made sense that he would have the board up until this point, and it just doesn't play around the Ruination. He's still got some decent tools. He's going to be able to scale into the late game sort of effectively. He's going to get that Hearthguard down, but I mean, this should be a pretty Deach favored matchup. I actually have to check how many Ruinations are in the main deck. It is 2.
Yeah.
But this is not a deck where the Frostbite is an effective tool. The Atrocity, sure, it's the finisher, but Ladros is still cutting your life in half every time it comes down. Doesn't matter if you frostbite it.
Yeah, Ladros is, and something else actually to note with Ladros. So obviously Frostbite affects the Atrocity, not so much Ladros. On the other hand, this new card that you guys might have seen floating around in some Lee Sin decks called Nope-ify. I just wanted to say nope like that really bad. So
it had the same inflection as when you say Morp's name.
Yeah, nope. But it cannot actually affect Ladros's effect on the stack. So Nopeify does not target that. Deny would, of course. Deny does everything. So yeah, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see how popular Ladros is today. As like I said, I've seen it a ton on ladder, but for the time being, I don't know. It looks like Deach is in control here. I mean, sure, we have a decent field on the side of Miso, but it's not looking too hot. Now this Unspeakable Horror coming out, not going to help him out either, getting rid of that Trifarian Glory Seeker there. We'll see what Deach gets to the hand.
So I'm looking at, let me put it this way, for my professional analysis on this match, I'm looking at Miso's side deck already. I'm trying to figure out what we can do in game number 2 to make sure that game number 1 doesn't look as over as it already does, which is a weird thing to say because Deach has no field. But given that Ruination played out the way that it did, that's not the Frostbite midrange is not the kind of deck that comes back from Ruinations unless you have a decent amount of refuel already in hand and an Assessor on ready.
Yeah.
That Reckoning, that's the first thing I'm looking to take out when we do come towards game number 2. But honestly, no great tools to combat this deck in Miso Fat's side deck.
No, like I said, I mean, I'm not crazy about Miso's side deck. I mean, sure.
Well, the Reckless Trifarian could come up pretty big.
Yeah, we could go super aggressive. I mean, I imagine he's even got 2 Might in there. Maybe we just throw the 2 Might, the 3 Reckless Trifarian, and just go all out. I'm not sure. All right, we have 2 Nox Crya Arena in here, okay?
Yeah.
So this is, for anybody who doesn't know, this is the new landmark that has the strongest ally fight the weakest enemy unit at the round. Is it end or start? I'm not sure.
End of round, because it does synergize with Frostbite.
Boom. Okay, awesome. So now I guess my question is, what are you siding this card in for? Obviously, it wasn't deemed good enough to put in the main deck. So what exactly do you think Miso could be targeting here with Nox Crya Arena?
So if there were other cards that you were putting in with it, I could understand it. For example, Minotaur Reckoner. Makes Nox Crya Arena make a little bit more sense to me. And the reason for that is that Lee Sin is a card that gets hard stunned out by things like Leviathan Swain, the Infinite Mind Splitter, and things
and Yasuo
like
decks, right?
Yeah, and Yasuo decks, no, sure. And the Minotaur Reckoner. But the problem with something like a Minotaur Reckoner is that they have this really wide, really weak board of little guys that they don't really care about later in the game, like Eye of the Dragon, Gift Giver, Mountain Goat. So you could start to pick apart those wider boards with the Nox Crya Arena, and then Lee Sin is suddenly the only unit on the board, and anything that only hits the one unit, or like strongest, weakest, whatever, is going to hit that Lee Sin. So I don't fully understand the Nox Crya in the Frostbite midrange deck. We saw a few Frostbite midrange in the Eurasia tournament, mostly coming out of the Southeast Asia players. Didn't perform super well.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of, you mentioned Lee Sin, and obviously that's going to be on top of mind of everybody today, as it's one of the more popular decks. It's interesting that in this first matchup, we have a TLC deck, which is another great deck, and the mid-range Frostbite is also another great deck, but neither player opting for Lee Sin or TF Swain, two decks of which I think are pretty much the most popular decks in the format right now.
So I know that Cephalopod, who just picked up a win in the Legends of Runeterra subreddits tournament this week, with a they were also doing a one deck side deck format. He picked it up with, I believe it was War Mother's Call, but he was always of the opinion that Shadow Isle is just absolutely the best deck for a side deck region because their side deck tools are just leagues above every other region. So as long as you are running a Shadow Isle Freljord deck, I think you're in the right place.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. They have even more tools now as well. I forget the name of the 5 cost. Kill your own unit to kill another unit. Crackle.
I don't think that card's going to see play, so I didn't memorize its name.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I personally like that card. But just to give you an idea, though, like we have Vengeance, we have Withering Wail, Ghastly Undying, all these removal options. Crumble, that's what it was. Crackle, Jesus. On top of that, we have new cards being introduced, like Crumble, that continue to add those different options to Shadow Isle. So, I do agree with that. Why do I feel like you're always saying Cephalopod's name when it comes to winning Reddit tournaments? I feel like every time it's always Cephalopod. Has he won like all of them?
Cephalopod is a tournament grinder, man. These things fall off the radar, but Cephalopod will find them. He is the one that, we always talk about Santiago, and he's always posting about every tournament. Cephalopod's the one at home writing all of those down and entering all of them.
I need 4 monitors for production and casting. He needs 4 monitors to play 4 games at once. That's his game right now. So we have quite the field in the meantime, though, on the side of Deach. Wow. So this is all of a sudden a huge
There's
field.
a reason we've been doing color and not play-by-play. This has been over since turn 6.
Yeah, there's really not much that Miso can do here, unfortunately. I mean, Deach has just been in control the whole game. Literally has had no units on field until just now.
Okay, Assessor's what we needed, but, I mean, nothing phenomenal coming out of that Assessor. We probably needed... I think we need an Ash win condition. That's really the only way that we're going to get back into this, because it does have to be sort of a one-turn kill at this point. Down at 2, you are in the range of things like Unspeakable Horror, and of course if this Ladros ever dies, you're down to 1. It dies one more time, then all of a sudden you're just out of the game. And Atrocity is still something that Deach could have available. Can't play the Ladros in the same turn as it, but if he does pick up another copy of Intimidating Roar, you can play Roar and Atrocity in the same turn, and that's one of the reasons that this deck sort of rose to prominence in the first place.
So a big problem, I do agree. I feel like Ash, some sort of Ash OTK with those freezes is the only way that Miso is really going to win this, but Deach also has a ton of options to, against that as well. We have the Harsh Winds, we have the Flash Freezes main decked, or only one Flash Freeze, but he has plenty of ways to survive through that turn as well. I don't think we've seen a single Harsh Winds come out of Deach as of yet. So, I don't know. I mean, I think as long as Deach keeps the correct options in hand for each particular situation that comes up, like these larger fields, like playing that Ruination earlier, I think was a great Ruination, which we always talk about the importance of actually getting value out of Ruination and not holding it for too long, etc. I think as long as Deach plays smartly here, I think you're right. I think this game has been over for a little while, and let's see how he lives through this turn with 15 damage about to come through.
He can live through this turn just by hitting the OK button.
Yeah. Plenty healthy on the side of Deach. So again, Deach winning Fight Night. For those of you just joining us, Deach winning Fight Night last night. Pretty awesome to see him take home a win there. But opts to play the Withering Wail, even though not going to miss out on the heal a little bit, does still save technically 2 damage, killing the unit there.
So Deach has been on kind of a tear lately. He actually won the IQ qualifier that was going on the same weekend as the Ascent of Targon Invitational. So that tournament might have flown under the radar for a lot of spectators just because you were watching sort of this high profile the last DOR event. But he did pick up that win there, went on to the OLS the next week, which is what I was casting while you were casting with Nola Gold. And he had an absolutely terrible performance. I believe he didn't pick up a single win.
That's a small.
And he was kind of joking about, like, I go and I win this like qualifier, and then I can't even win this 20-man small tournament, and then he goes on and wins Fight Night.
And then he wins the even smaller person tournament technically, but it is invite of really, really competitive players that are at the top of their game, at the top of the game, Legends of Runeterra. So Deach, Deach has been on fire lately and representing Brazil like we saw in chat. It seems like we get a lot of Deach fans in chat as well, so maybe we're a little bit biased this game. You didn't hear it from me. I'm just saying, but we do see the Rhyme Fang Wolf now dropped by Miso, and you can kind of see this disparity of cards right now is pretty insane. I mean, sure, this Wording Stones doesn't really do anything on the side of Deach, but we're T-minus 2 summons of Ladros until the game's over. And
yeah,
it's looking like that's going to happen pretty soon. I will say, Miso is not, like, Miso has stayed in the game enough to give themselves a shot of actually winning the game. This Sejuani definitely threatens a lot of damage, but if we have something like a Ruination out of Deach now, then that's definitely a game. So we'll see if Deach does have the second Ruination. We could also have a Vengeance.
SJW, he literally just played the second Ruination last turn.
Oh, I thought that was the first. Oh, no, he played one a while ago as well. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, he played one on 6. That's how he got here.
Okay, never mind. Whew, round 1. I'm dusting off the cobwebs, guys, all right? Dusting off the cobwebs. So let's see. Vengeance then would be on the board for this. And then obviously Harsh Winds as well. So I feel like, I don't think we've seen any Harsh Winds yet. So I feel like a Harsh Winds might come out here. But we'll see what
I mean, you can also just survive these attacks.
Yeah, 6. Well, this would be 2. This is exactly.
Actually, no. The Culling Strike onto the Wording Stone that is blocking could come up here.
Oh, yeah, and that's a good point. And that would actually present lethal if this one blocks as well. That's the exact 10 damage we're going to need. So,
but as we had mentioned, there's still a lot of answers that could be coming out of Deach here, and it looks like Grasp. Yeah, that's going to stop it regardless.
Yep. So there's always, you know, it's when you're looking at a Frostbite or a Freljord in a Shadow Isles deck like this, we sit here and we're like, you could have the Ruination, could have Vengeance, could have this, could have. There's literally every single card in his deck is like a way to lift. He could have even had a Catalyst of Aeons to heal. So like there was literally, I don't think any way that Deach would have died that turn. We do see the Ladros, number 1 of 2 seemingly, because we only need to do 1 more damage come down. And I do believe he is playing 3 Unspeakable Horrors, so we could just see the game end with an Unspeakable Horror here.
Yeah, it's always something that's on the table. I have always been sort of surprised at the consistency of this TLC deck. You know, you look at it and there's really not a lot of units. There's a lot of spells, and a lot of it is damage-based removal that doesn't always necessarily pair into sort of the things that Frostbite midrange is going to be packing. But I'm always impressed by the resilience of this deck where it doesn't feel like it necessarily should have it. I mean, obviously, Ruination is going to be a blowout card in a matchup like this. You know, any kind of mid-range deck that doesn't hold onto cards super well or has like that one big blowout card like the Trifarian Assessor, you know, isn't going to work out super well. But Deach doesn't seem to have the Unspeakable Horror. And unless he's got a Harsh Winds, I don't know if he's going to be able to survive this, because Miso does have the Harsh Winds in order to negate an Atrocity here.
Yeah, I mean, Atrocity would not be enough to do it. Deach, I feel like, has got to have something, though. Whether it is a Vengeance for the Sejuani, we could also see some more heal come out, or like I said, the Unspeakable Horror could just straight up end the game. I feel like that's the obvious. That would have just been a snap decision here, though. And it is going to be the Vengeance on the Sejuani, so pretty good stuff there. And I think that's going to do it, because we can just summon this Ladros now.
Yeah, that should be the end of the game. There's nothing that Miso is going to be able to do about this. Harsh Winds can't even hit his own Hearthguard to stop the Ladros from dying. So just, you know, I mean, when we saw the Ruination come down on 6, we figured that was the end of the game. Miso actually did a pretty good job at starting to come back into it and threaten lethal, especially through a second copy of Ruination. But, you know, at the end of the day, it wasn't quite enough, and now we are going to see. It's always kind of a treat to see how the players actually go about their side decking.
Yeah, this is interesting. So first off, the thing I want to point out is Miso actually went to just click ready again. Probably used to the old format, so there's that. But all right.
It looks like he's sort of pre-sided. He has these deck lists where he's like, this is what I want to side in and out against this. Whereas most people, if you are planning on entering a tournament like this, what most people tend to do is you bring your standard deck and then you bring a second copy of it. And with that second copy, you do your siding in and out.
Yep. Exactamundo. And it looks like he's taking whatever he listed as the Tom Kench killer here. If we even see Tom, we better see some Tom Kench today. I'm just saying, new champion, new cards. I want to see it. Tom Kench seems pretty fun as well. Doesn't seem to be the greatest, but I have seen it a lot on ladder.
Look, they did say that this was supposed to be a little bit more of a for fun kind of tournament. I don't think anybody heard that part or took it seriously.
Nobody ever hears that. Everybody just hears tournament, and then they go, all right, I got to win. I got to take this seriously.
Well, they hear tournament and they hear money.
Yeah. So for anybody, again, who might just be joining us, the format is not 3 decks, 1 ban. It is 1 deck, with a side deck, a 15-card side deck. So pretty much if you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh, very similar to those rules where you have a 40-card deck. In between games, you can side in and out. So we'll see how this pans out. According to Boulevard, earlier in the European tournament, it was a lot of the same decks because of this format. So I do agree that this inherently just having one deck per person is obviously going to lead to less innovative and less original decks, which ultimately, I don't know. We'll see if that's going to affect the NA tournament as well. On the side of Miso as well, if you guys are curious, he does have in his side deck 2 Elixir of Irons, 2 House Spiders, 3 Tavern Keepers, 2 Might, 3 Reckless Trifarian, 2 Nox Cryo Arena, and a Captain Farron. I imagine he's going to go pretty aggressive here with his siding in and out so that he can beat this TLC, not TDL. It's TLC deck. And again, this is a very different mindset. We're very used to the second game being queued up and the other opponent changing decks. Well, now his opponent needs to win with the same deck twice. So we know what we're going up against. We'll see what the TLC deck decides to side in. Boulevard, do you know what's Deach siding here?
So we got 2 copies of the Howling Abyss. Don't expect that one to come in necessarily. 2 Kindly Tavern Keepers, some Babbling Bjergs, and then a lot of one-ofs. We got Flash Freeze, Passage Unearned, a card that, honestly, everybody looks at this as, okay, that's a side deck card. Not a lot of people siding it, if we're being honest. It has some potential value to get like 1-for-1 off a Wormother's Call, or I really don't think there's a lot of harrowing decks in this format. And then Avalanche, Box, 2 copies of Crumble, which you had mentioned. I didn't think we were going to see that. Grasp of the Undying, Harsh Winds, and Possession.
Love me some Possession. But every time I see Possession, because since we're in the Yu-Gi-Oh format, I'm going to make some more Yu-Gi-Oh references here. Every time I see Possession, I just think of Snatch Steal. Love that card. Absolutely love that card. Ultra rare. Looks really pretty. But
I like how you think of. I always think of Brain Control or Mind Control,
Brain Control
Change
too.
of Heart.
Yeah,
like there's a billion
ton
steel cards in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, that's because that game is broken. There's no mana. You just play stuff and yoink everybody's cards.
It's great. It's great.
It's the best game ever. But so yeah, we are 1-0 right now with Deach ahead. Looks like they went ahead and did all their good side decking goodness. I wish we could see somehow what Deach's decisions were. Unfortunately, spectator mode's coming soon, though. They announced it.
I don't even know if that would matter in this situation.
I don't think they'd have. I don't think they'd have anything that would allow us to do that. Unfortunately.
No, and I am kind of hoping that they actually, with the introduction of in-client tournaments a little bit after spectator mode, I'm kind of hoping that they have a spectator mode specifically for casters, because if you do a spectator mode on ladder, obviously you shouldn't be able to see both players' hands, because then you could, because it is in real time, there's no delay, you could just tell your buddy on ladder what's in his opponent's hand. So I do hope that they have some kind of either tournament client or something for us where we can actually get in and see both players' hands in a spectator mode. I think that'd be really cool, even if you have to do it. I mean, because League of Legends has like a custom game mode and things like that. They have a delay, but I'm sure they could figure something out. I don't know how high that is on the priority list, but I'll be happy with normal old spectator mode anyway.
Whoa. It better be high on the priority list, all right, Boulevard? We know how much we want spectator mode. But yeah, I'll be happy with anything. I'm not going to lie. It's not at this point, yeah. And it's still the first year of the game. So, but with that said, we are getting started here with Game 2. Miso down 1-0 to Deach here. Made some side decking changes. Trying to kind of look at the decks here and see what was changed. Looks like a Captain Farron was side decked in, or was he main decking one as well?
I believe that got sided in. Okay. Yeah.
Looks like also the Might. So I was right with the Might. Looks like we are going for more of an aggressive approach here.
A little surprised we didn't put in the Reckless Trifarian.
Yeah, I am too, especially if we have the 2 Might that are getting sided in. I would have figured that the Reckless Trifarian kind of went hand in hand with those Mights, but looks like that's not the case. Looks like we are valuing maybe having some blockers on the side of Miso here, but I feel like that wouldn't really make sense because Deach obviously is not going to be aggressive at all early on in the game. But 3 Calling Strike maxed out now as well, I believe. Oh, no, there was 3 main decked in the beginning as well. So
yeah, I was going to say, this is Frostbite mid-range. There better have been 3 in there. So this Avarician Trapper is a card that's going to play out really well for Miso in this matchup. You're really looking for that to get aggressive. Hopefully we get to top deck the Yeti here and get that down alongside another Trapper. I'm a little surprised not to see the House Spider come in. I understand that there are avalanches in Deach's deck, but Avalanche isn't usually a card that pairs super well into Frostbite midrange, everything usually sitting at around that 3 to 5 health range, so it's not unreasonable to think that Deach would side out those Avalanches, but then you take it a step further, Avalanche is really good, both in conjunction with additional copies as well as the Withering Whales that are also staying in Deach's deck, and looking at Deach's side deck, I don't think there's a whole lot that you're bringing in for Frostbite midrange, so it is possible that, when you're looking at things to take out, Avalanche just ends up staying in anyway. So there are a lot of mind games that get to come in to a side decking format that newer players might not be quite aware of.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because you can see each other's side decks. So now that's the whole all right, well, I know he's going to side against me for this, so do I side against his side? And then Miso's, do I side against his side against the side? So
it's kind of weird because sometimes it does get that deep where you're trying to 10-head it, okay, do I side deck for this? And then sometimes your opponent just doesn't even think of it.
Yeah. You're so 10-headed that you just overthought the situation and ended up making the wrong decision because of it. So I definitely think that could be a possibility today, but we'll see what Deach did decide to do. For now, it is the Withering Whale going to come out just to kill the Trapper, kind of prevent a pretty bad open attack. I don't love that Withering Whale just because it would have saved the 3 health regardless on the open attack, so maybe just didn't have anything else to play.
I think it was for mana efficiency, and if Miso does go for a developmental attack, then I think we get a Vile Feast onto this Rhymefang Wolf, would just stop all of the attacks out of Miso on this turn.
Yeah, it just always feels bad to... Oh, wow, I actually got a Trundle here, so this will be good against this Rhymefang Wolf. Obviously, with 1 mana from Miso, cannot Frostbite it. Even if we wanted to with Brittle Steel, can't do that with a Trundle. It's a big boy over there with 6 health, and not going to attack with... Even the Hearthguard here, obviously, Trundle going to regen back up. So pretty good turn for Deach, just completely stonewalling Miso's aggression with a single Trundle.
Yeah, there are certain times where you stare down this Trundle and you think, okay, one of my blockers is just going to be ineffective. I have to start throwing it in. The problem is that 3 damage when your opponent is at 20 just really isn't worth it because there's still so much healing in Deach's deck. You really don't want to be losing advantages to push that small of an amount of damage. Even if you got to push the full 5, I think Rhymefang Wolf is your best bet for actually killing this Trundle at any point in the game. You really don't want to have to try and use Harsh Wind's Calling Strike to take this unit out.
Yeah, no, there is plenty of healing. That is 100% right. To the point where, we saw that Withering Whale get used. Deach not really worried about not getting the 3 heal from it. Just more concerned about the tempo gain and, like you said, the mana efficiency. So when you're able to toss away heal like that, you can kind of see how much is in the deck, how much access Deach has to it. And honestly, with how this game is looking, with Miso having, taken some of these side deck options into consideration here, getting this Captain Farron in, getting these Mites in, there has not been more aggression than the last deck. It's pretty much the same as before, if not possibly worse, because now we have an early Trundle.
Oh, we get an Assessor off of that Babbling Beard, though, will get us 3 draws on the following turn.
Wow.
And Miso can just open the turn with that if he really wants to. His open attack, not looking the best given the amount of blockers in Deach. And there's even the Captain Farron. That is one of the bigger cards he would have wanted to draw. And this game is so far looking better for Miso Fat than the previous one, but that's not saying a lot considering how bad the last one looked.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does that really mean in this case? Yeah, that Assessor was huge. That was, we say it all the time. These Assessors, these top decked Assessors too, these are what can win games just outright for the mid-range Frostbite decks, as well as Captain Farron's. And we already see a Captain Farron in hand. It's looking like we will be able to drop it down next turn, which will also prevent something like this Trundle from going ahead and attacking and getting that Overwhelm off, because we would have a pretty decent blocker in the Farron for it. For now, anyways, this Trundle going to get a value block on the Hearthguard, though.
Well, Trundle's going to kill whatever the pillar gives vulnerable to.
Yeah, well, do you think... Oh, yeah, he's going to pull probably the Yeti at this point?
It'll be the Yeti, yeah. So it doesn't really activate as a blocker there. But if Deach plays something pre-combat, the Sejuani actually can come down. And then if you get, it's kind of awkward because getting Sejuani down, then she's probably going to die to the pillar. She is a 6/7 currently, but there's a pretty good chance that Trundle's going up to 7 attack, given that there's already the pillar on field still. It's going to put him at least 6, and I don't think things are looking phenomenal for Deach here. Captain Farron's a good start, but he's going to need a little bit more, and having taken Reckoning out of the deck, he doesn't have that Harsh Winds Reckoning combo available to him.
Yeah, and it's so disappointing, right? Like, all of that attack resulted in was 5 damage. And then now we have the Catalyst of Aeon back up to 18. It just doesn't feel like Miso at any point has been able to actually be the aggressor, actually threaten any sort of real damage. And because of that, it looks like Deach is still going to be in this game for quite some time. I mean, even this Captain Farron, that's 12 damage from those decimates, but that's a lot of mana invested. You're usually not doing that unless you can finish off the game. And we don't have a big enough field with this Trundle still on the side of Deach to actually push through damage to get, Deach within that 12. And even if we do, there's so much more heal. There is nothing Miso can do, I don't think.
No, I mean, so Miso does find the Ashe, which is one of the big win cons that you're looking for in a matchup like this. It will automatically take these chump blockers off the table once she is leveled. The problem is that we are at 0 out of 5 on that Ashe. We haven't seen an Ice Veil Archer. We have the Harsh Winds and the Sejuani in hand, but we're still only looking at 4 out of 5 for the Ashe if you count her first Frostbite activation on her own.
Yeah, and we talked about it last game too. So it's interesting. We have these side decks. They're a thing. The idea with the side decks is, okay, I have the exact cards for this matchup that will give me a higher probability of winning. But in this particular case with mid-range Frostbite versus TLC, we're just back to square one with Ashe. We're just back to saying, well, we need an OTK with Ashe. And it just feels really bad on the side of Miso that this is still the case.
I would have liked to see Ashe drag the pillar there, actually. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you're going to Culling Strike this Trundle. And getting that pillar off the board actually does matter a lot. I mean, the Trundle was just going to block something else anyway. There was no universe where this doesn't block your Ashe. I think this is a slight misstep on the side of Miso because the way that things play out, I mean, nothing's changed other than the pillar is still alive. You still didn't push any additional damage by not, challenging that with your Ashe.
Yeah, and that means that this Ashe will still have vulnerable, and that's 100% right, Boulevard. I mean, that's going to feel bad if Deach, summons something that's able to pick off that Ashe. And again, I do think we need to lean into this Frostbite OTK strategy with Ashe. So if this is removed from the board, it's not going to look good. We even have the Harsh Winds. Like, we have a Sejuani and a Harsh Winds that we could play in the same turn. That right there is looking to be like a pretty good OTK turn with this Ashe, but unfortunately, we might have an answer for it anyways with the Vengeance.
So it is possible, and I like to give players the benefit of the doubt where I can. It is possible that Miso didn't challenge the pillar because he wants it to survive so that if Deach plays something to threaten the Ashe, he can Harsh Winds 2 units still to get those extra ticks towards the Ashe evolution.
Okay. I don't think you need to do that, though.
Well, when your Ashe is at 0 out of 5 and that's the win con you're playing towards, it's not unreasonable.
Well, because I think you're playing to the next attack turn, right? So I think on that attack turn, you could have just done 2 units anyways. By then, Deach will probably have summoned something.
Really? There's like 3 units in this
that
deck.
Is a good point. There's 9, 10, is there 12 total, I think? Yeah, there's...
and that's not even counting if he sided some of them out, which I don't think he would have, these Sentries, Wording Stones. These all kind of make sense to keep in the deck.
Well, we do have the Crescent going on the field here, which isn't going to do a whole lot, but it does provide an additional blocker if this whole Frostbite strategy does become a thing. So we'll see how Miso decides to play this. Looks like, considering the Sejuani, but now opting for the Rhyme Fang, we do have the Farron on the field as well. So this next attack turn could be a doozy. We already saw one Vengeance come out, so really now it's just about playing around Ruination, which... Was there a third in the side deck? No, there was not. So there's still only 2 Ruination. And then obviously an additional Vengeance could come down. But really the Ruination is going to be the biggest thing here headed towards the beginning of the game if we're going to pick up a win on the side of Miso.
All right.
Wow.
Bjerg picks up a Hearthguard. That's as weird as it feels to say. Hearthguard's kind of a nothing card at this point in the game.
Wow. What did Hearthguard ever do to you? Why you gotta be like that, man?
It's just not generating a lot of value
nothing
right now,
card.
man.
Jesus, God.
Meanwhile, these so the disappointing part is that these trappers are sitting all the way to the left of Miso's hand, and it would have felt really good to get those down early. They definitely feel like they're past their prime at this point. We talk a lot about how in the later stages of the game, it can feel like a detriment to play this card because top decking that 1-mana 5/5 when you could be drawing something like a Hearthguard that will effectively do the same thing but also buff up your deck, because you sort of get down to a point where mana doesn't really matter in these later stages.
Yep.
Not going to be exactly the case in this particular game, as Miso does have all those decimates that he's waiting to run out, but he's still not representing lethal with all of those even. But he's only got to deal 9 damage to threaten lethal, and with the setup he's got, he's got a good shot at it. 1 Vengeance is already gone.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, it's looking like at least if there is a Vengeance that comes down, there's at least going to be 8 damage push. It looks like we are going to see a Vengeance onto the Farron with the way these blocks are lined up. And that's 8 damage, which now puts... Oh, wow. No way.
Yeah, Deach just had no answer.
Wow. Okay, so Miso out of nowhere is able to put the aggression on there and didn't even need... We didn't even need the Decimates.
What is with this monochrome victory screen?
Wait, what was it? Why? Did it look different?
There was just like no color to it.
Oh, really? Oh, God. Maybe.
It was kind of
actually,
weird.
if you look at the chest look a little
his
weird.
chest as well, yeah.
Maybe.
I wonder if that's a resolution on his game or something.
Toaster. It's the toaster.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can adjust those visual settings. I don't think it's a bad computer thing.
I don't know, man. I know like sometimes people will reduce the resolution so their computer runs faster. So, and you can kind of see it with all the backgrounds and the decks and stuff too. It just looks a little dull. God.
I don't know. I didn't know if Legends of Runeterra had a colorblind mode similar to League of Legends. I always played on colorblind mode in League of Legends just because I like the colors in it better than the
Really? I didn't even know that was a thing. All right.
Yeah, I think it changes it to like green and blue rather than red and blue.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interessante. The more you know. So we are tied 1-1 here now. Miso and Deach. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. I was not thinking Miso was going to pick that one up, but that Assessor into the Farron, I guess, just completely turned things around. I guess when you have Assessor, like it's really that strong of a card when you do get those draws off, right?
Well, let's not mince words here. That was Captain Farron.
Well, yes, but that's because the Captain Farron actually got an attack off. There was just no answer from the side of Deach.
But I still don't think that this is necessarily favored for Miso Fat. If you can find the one of Farron again, then yeah, this is the matchup that you have it in for, is these control decks. It's a very large body, the only answer they can have with it for Vengeance, and I would not actually be, that... I don't think it's out of the world to keep Farron in your opening hand.
I knew you were going to say that. Ugh, that's... I don't know, man. Anything like with 6 or more mana... I feel like is kind of iffy in your first hand, regardless of how useful it might be in that matchup.
I think the only way that you win this game is finding Captain Farron on time. And when you only have a 1-of, I think it's fine to keep it. You can play down a card. It's not the end of the world, especially because you're not a deck that is sort of poised to go aggro in the early turns anyway. It's not like you're mulliganing for a full... Like, if you're playing Pirate aggro into this, then yeah, you never keep Farron in the opening hand because you're looking for earlier things to play on curve. I don't think you're really doing that with Frostbite midrange.
So, with that said, and I was actually going to mention this earlier, if Captain Farron is seemingly doing so well in this matchup, and just control in general, obviously, because this is like the top end of control, unless you're counting Spooky Karma, unless I talk about that. So with Miso, I'm surprised he didn't put 2 Captain Farron in the side deck, because there are some mid-range Frostbite that we've seen just straight out run 2 Captain Farron in the main deck.
Yeah, I don't know if just wasn't really feeling it. Maybe doesn't own 2 copies of the card. I'm looking at this default
know about that.
I'm looking at this default board with this default card back and this default Poro, and I'm just like,
Miso started playing yesterday. Jesus. Oh, man. So, starting off, though, Miso did opt to go ahead and put the Farron back into the deck. So, due to that, we actually... don't have a terrible hand, but nothing really to be proactive with. It feels kind of bad summoning something like the Iceveil Archer, which honestly you have to do if you want to, maintain tempo. But God, that never feels good right now. Do you summon the Iceveil here, or do you just pass?
Should have kept the Captain Farron. Should have done. Look at this. He didn't
find any. Done anything.
He didn't find any turn 3 plays anyway.
All right, but we do have the nicely
curved. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, there we go. Captain Farron. That could have been.
He knew that. He knew that.
I don't even know what else it could have been. That would have been like great. I guess Ash wouldn't have been bad. I was thinking, you can grab an Assessor, but we haven't Hearthguarded yet. So, okay, we find the Captain Farron. That's all well and good. You get rewarded.
See, Boulevard. This is why we don't play in the tournaments, because obviously Miso knew.
Oh, speak for yourself here. I'm done with it. There's no more self shit talking on. This is why we don't play tournaments.
Miso knew that the Bjerg was going to draw this Farron. So obviously we just need to get on Miso's level here. And listen, all right, just for that, I'm getting higher ranked than you this season just because of this. All right, it's happening. Okay. The challenge is on.
Is this in your professional Diamond 4 opinion?
Excuse me, I was Diamond 1 first off. And I just didn't feel like grinding the rest of the way.
Wait, hold on. You got all the way to Diamond 1 and then we're like, okay, yeah, these last 5 games, that's too much time.
Stupid. I don't know, man.
I assume, if you got to the bottom of Diamond and we're like 20 games, that's way too big a hurdle to climb. I get it. that's an intimidating 10 hours ahead of you. But if you're all the way up there and you just stop.
It was still a solid like 4 hours that might have took. I don't know.
I mean, that's reasonable.
Jesus. I don't know, man.
But we're going to see the Trundle die here. And I mean, we do have Miso's win condition in this Captain Farron online already. So things not looking great for Deach. He struggled with this last game, but he didn't find any ruinations. That is still something that's going to be online. And he can get down a little bit later, especially, you know, if this Sejuani does come down on the following turn. There's actually not a lot of impact left in Miso's hand outside of that Farron. He didn't play the Sejuani on this attack turn because he wanted to go for the Culling Strike. So, I mean, this open attack is still only representing 6 damage.
Yeah, this is definitely I'd say the worst start for Miso thus far in these first 3 games that we've seen today. Only the 6 damage, like you just mentioned, looks like it's going to go ahead and get through. So, and listen, everybody listen, just because I am not doing this all day, all right, everybody? I am not doing this. This is not cool, all right? Jesus.
I'm sorry.
What did I ever do to any of you people but just try to be fun and entertaining on casts? And now, because wow, it looks like I know what I'm doing for the next 2 weeks. So now I gotta.
It's gonna take 2 weeks.
Well, maybe sooner if I can help it. Stop. Listen, I got a real person job too. Okay. All right, the challenge is on.
I see we're starting off on the right foot today. So there's actually something that I wanted to mention to you specifically, and I wanted to do this off cam, but you know what? I'll do it on cam since we'll do it in front of all our friends and family. Because we're not playing the 3-deck Conquest, it's not going to come up, but I have a deal for you.
Oh, God.
Personally, I am trying to avoid the phrase unbench the Kench as much as humanly possible. Oh. My goal is to never actually say it in a serious manner.
Okay, but did you see, I got to find this now. There's like 7,000 other ways to go ahead and say the same thing for Kench.
I actually really want to debate people and just constantly say, like, and the Kench is unleashed, and just, like, all these other Kench words that I could possibly find, but I'm trying to avoid that phrase like the white whale chasing me to the ends of the earth.
I'm trying to find the visual that I saw before with, like, all the phrases, too. It was like something the catfish, like, it was a rhyme for every single possible way to describe Tahm Kench. So when I find that, I'll let you know. We'll just avoid bench the Kench and just say it every other way.
Yeah. I told my friends I was going to say unlock the croc so that Twitch chat could yell at me about how he's not a crocodile and I could just ignore them.
Yeah, that's ancient crocodile you're talking about there.
Oh, I'm talking about Riptide Rex.
Oh, there you go. See,
a big old crocodile.
See, I've been using Vaults of Helia to try to do some ancient crocodile shenanigans, so that's all I got going on in my head right now.
So things are still looking pretty okay for Deach at the moment. He really lines up his board phenomenally into what Miso has provided. Nothing is actually going to be dying this turn, and that is one of the big strengths of this deck, is if you are playing against a mid-range style deck, these pillars are very difficult to deal with, especially once the Reckoning does come out of Miso's deck in game number 2. And as you know, as good as it would look in a situation like this, I do think it was correct to take those cards out. If your opponent's getting down 2 pillars, that's really the only time where you're going to find value for the Reckoning. And because you are playing against a control deck and you are a deck that's weak to Ruination, every single card that you find needs to get absolute full value.
Yeah, and it does look like we have a pretty serious attack coming through from Deach here. Going to get that buff. Wow, okay, that is a lot of 8-cost cards. Obviously, we get the Ladros and the 2 pillars on field. So this is going to be a lot of damage coming through if we don't see this harsh winds.
14 attack on a Trundle. Look at that boy.
That's a big boy right now. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's going to immediately demand the harsh winds, and that's not good for Miso. That was supposed to be your atrocity answer.
Yeah, and this means that actually neither will die. The Trundle will live. The Ladros will even live, which is probably more unfortunate for Deach than anything. And this still, again, is not looking that great for Miso. We do have a level dash.
I did not expect that burst pass.
Yeah, did he just play the Elixir of Iron?
Yeah, he wanted to burst pass.
Why?
I don't know what you think Deach is... Like, the only card that Deach would possibly play here, I believe, is another Commander Ladros. Which I guess... I mean, the consideration that Miso has to be making is, do I play the Assessor or do I play the Ash? I don't know that Elixir of Iron was necessarily worth that decision. But this Ash's Enchanted Crystal Arrow could represent lethal next turn, maybe we were trying to bait out the Ruination before something came down, but Deach didn't fall for it. And if he has the Ruination now, things are looking absolutely terrible for Miso, who, you know, maybe should have gone for the Assessor to get that instant value if the Ruination is what was going to come down. Instead, now we're down in Elixir of Iron, we're down in Ash, we're top decking a completely useless Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but we still have Captain Farron. But he's just going to run right into a Commander Ladros.
Unload the Toad. That's what I want to go with. Forget unbench the Kench or bench the Kench. It's load the Toad and unload the Toad. That's what I'm going with, and I'm sticking to it. We got this. And we better see Kench today. I'm just saying. If we don't see Kench...
We are not going to see
Listen,
Tom Kench
you
today.
negative Nancy. We're going to see Kench and Soraka.
If you start going through the deck list right now, maybe you can find the one Tom Kench player for us to spectate. And fingers crossed that they're streaming.
Listen, I just want, like, I don't think Tom and Soraka is that good. And I don't really think, honestly, Shyvana is that good. But if we could see at least a Dragon deck or a Soraka and bench, Kench deck. Now I can't get my words straight because I'm trying to rhyme too much. If we can see one of those today, I'll be happy. Hopefully a Dragon deck. I feel like that's what we'll probably see.
I mean, it feels like a lot of players have started to fall off of Dragons since the opening weekend.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of decks that splash Dragons. Like they'll play like two or three different Dragons, but they don't go all in on the package.
Did you say since the opening week? It's been like 3 days.
Time isn't real.
It's been literally 3 days. Oh, man. And, wow. All right. So, Deach going to take it there. 2-1 over at Miso. So, Deach continuing his reign since Fight Night. Now winning round 1 of Duels of Runeterra number 16. All right, and Deach is going to go ahead and start out Duels of Runeterra number 16 with a win. So will Deach be able to go ahead and continue this roll from Fight Night into a Duels of Runeterra 16 win? We shall see. But until next time, everybody, again, turn on that bell so you get notified when all the videos go up. Basically for the rest of the week, you're gonna see a ton come up, as well as some new deck videos because we had some new cards drop. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.